John the Automaton says, how do I learn to play the two-player game? I don't know how to understand what my opponent wants to do. Is there any kind of method to it? Yes. Yes, 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 yes. I've always said, if you are doing something in a fighting game, and the reason that you do it is not based off of something that the opponent did, you are not playing the two-player game. Now, this is going to happen every time you run into a brand new opponent in ranked that you've never played before, because you can't play a two-player game with them because you have no idea. You can't base your decision on what they did because you have no idea what they do, right? So the way it works in fighting games is you always have the matchup knowledge to start, right? I always give the example. If I'm Cammy or if I'm Kimberly or anybody, a lot of times in both 5 and in 6, if I fight a Ryu and I don't know what the Ryu player plays like, the first thing I almost always do is walk backwards. I walk backwards. Why? Because I want to know what kind of Ryu I'm fighting. Sometimes the Ryu will see me walk backwards and they'll walk backwards and go, cool, I can throw fireballs. Then there are those Ryus that like you walk backwards and they just start dashing at you and they sweep. And they just sit there and do solar plexus strikes all day and donkey kicks and they're insane. But now, because all I did at the start of the round was walk backwards, I can start putting people in boxes. And the way that I always describe it is that the matchup knowledge is the trunk of the tree. The matchup knowledge is the trunk of the tree. And then once you get past the trunk and you have branches and branches off of branches, you build that knowledge. You go up the trunk and you're like, this guy is aggressive. Go down the aggressive branch. Here's the super defensive branch. Now you don't need this anymore. You go down this branch. Oh, he's really aggressive. He likes to dash a lot. Go down the dash branch. He likes to jump a lot. Go down the jump branch. He likes to drive impact a lot. Go down the drive impact branch. And you just keep doing that until you reach the leaf that is that player, right? That's kind of how you want to do it when you're fighting against other players. Then once you have that, once you get better at starting to understand how to figure out opponents or the boxes that you want to put people in, you know, then you can start basing your decisions on that, right? So another example, right? So a great one, right? I do cross up, then I throw, they tech the throw. Interesting. I do low jab, I walk up and I throw, and they tech the throw. And then I do jump cross up, and I try to throw, and they tech the throw. I don't care that they've teched it 3 times. I don't care that I've been wrong 3 times. I'm building information. Now, to play the two-player, so I'm playing the two-player game to see, by seeing, does my opponent ever decide to change what he does? Is he scared I'm going to shimmy him? If he techs all 3 times, especially at instant timing, I mean, you'll see it sometimes when I'm streaming. I'm like, this guy's shimmyable. Like, I'll get my throw teched 3 times in a row, and I'm like, this guy's shimmyable. And then I'll do cross-up shimmy, he whiffs the throw, and then I beat him up, right? So even though the first 3 times he teched the throw, you are playing the two-player game because you're trying to get a bead on how this guy plays. Once you've established that he's hyper at teching throws, now you're playing the two-player game because if you're playing someone that you have no idea, random guy, you'll be like, oh, I'm just going to try to throw. I'm going to try to throw. But now you're basing your decision, your mix-up, off of knowledge that you've gained through play. You're like, okay, he teched 3 times instantly, so now I believe he is a hyper techer, and he just is scared of throws and techs everything. So now I'm just going to shimmy him. And so if that works and he whiffs the throw and you blow him up, that's the two-player game, because the decision that you made was based off of knowledge you ascertained from fighting the guy, from fighting the opponent. You have built knowledge on what this guy likes to do. And the throw tech one is an easy example, but again, it's crazy because you can't tell when you watch a fighting game match if you don't understand it, but this is happening everywhere. after you block a cross up, after you block a towards medium kick, after you get knocked down by a sweep, after you get knocked down by a flash kick, after you get knocked down by a throw, after you block this plus on block move. Dude, every single one of those situations is knowledge. Every single one of those situations is knowledge, right? And so you're trying to build the knowledge of the opponent and base what you want to do. So the reason why I talk about the two-player game versus the one-player game is the biggest fault that people have when they play the one-player game. They fight the opponent. They're fighting Kimberly versus Guile, like I have in my training mode. You're the Kimberly, and you're like, I'm going to try to slide under this Guile Sonic Boom. I'm going to try jumping here. I'm going to do this. But if you're doing all that based off of no knowledge, just like I'm just going to try this, then you're playing incorrectly in a way, because it's a two-player game. And the reason why I say that is because your brain is fighting another brain. Your flawed brain is fighting another flawed brain. You have to understand that they are going to make mistakes that you can take advantage of. And so what you do should be based on trying to take advantage of their mistakes. Not, Kimberly can run slide under a Sonic Boom. I'm going to do that. Right? If you go full screen away and you see a Guile and you go full screen away and they stop throwing Sonic Booms because they're ready for the slide, now you're like, aha. But you know what? Based off of that knowledge now I can run stop. Right? So a lot of times, because Kimberly's like to go a screen away and do this like a spaz, right? So a lot of times when Kimberly's get a screen away, your opponent will stop doing stuff because they're just waiting to block. You know what that does? It lets me do this because they want to block the slide. But based off of me dashing a screen away and seeing the opponent stop doing anything like jab, he's trying to fake Sonic Boom, I know he's ready for my run slide, so now I can do run stop. I have traversed half of the screen for free off of one little observation. But again, you would never run into stop from a full screen away like this unless you had knowledge of what the other person wants to do. So I'm playing the two-player game. I'm taking advantage of the fact that when my opponent wants to block this and blow me up for it, he has a flawed brain. He can't react to run stop and sit there and wait for to block the slide at the same time. So I know he has a flawed brain, so I can take advantage of doing this extremely unsafe thing because I know what he's looking for. I am playing the two-player game. That's basically just how it works right there. So does that make sense, John the Automaton? And so the hardest thing about playing fighting games is when you are playing fighting games and you are fighting against the opponent, every single time stuff happens, you are building knowledge. You have to keep building knowledge. And this is one of the things that makes fighting games so hard and why a lot of the times it takes a lot of soul searching to become stronger. Because if you're losing to somebody badly, repeatedly, they're reading your patterns and you don't know you have patterns. You think you're being really variety and you're like, I'm doing smart stuff. And you have no idea you're doing the same pattern over and over and over and over again. And so now you actually have to sit there and be like, I'm doing a pattern. Wow, I am bad, right? Like you just have to do that. It's like I said, I tell the story all the time. In high school, when I was playing Alpha against my opponent, I was Rose. Every time I jump backwards, he'd jump at me. Because what happens? Everybody jump backwards and throws a fireball. Because it's the easiest way to get a full screen away to get to your zoning. So every time I jump backwards, he'd jump at me. And I'd anti-air him every single time. I'd jump backwards and I'd just wait. And he'd jump and I'd anti-air him. And then I'd jump backwards. He jumped at me and I anti-aired him. And I put the controller down. And I was like, hey, do you realize you're jumping at me every single time I jump backwards? And he's like, no, I'm not. I'm like, yes, you are. He's like, I don't think I am. We played another game. I jumped backwards. Before I landed, I yelled, jump. And he walked and jumped at me and was like, oh my God. Like, I yelled it before he jumped. And he still muscle memory autopiloted into a jump. And this is why fighting games are hard, because it takes a lot of soul searching to realize the mistake is you. The mistake is you. And that's one of the hardest things, right? So if I'm doing that to my friend and I never told him that, I'm playing the two-player game and I'm just taking advantage of the biggest weakness ever. And in fact, another one of my favorite stories was when I was playing an Akuma player with Zangief in Street Fighter 4. He would throw a fireball, I would jump over it from a screen away, and then he would run up and do standing heavy kick. Well, standing heavy kick was very safe with Akuma in Street Fighter 4, and Zangief couldn't crouch it. So it was just a particularly strong tool against Zangief. But the thing about it was, I was winning anyway. So I would jump over his fireball, block his standing roundhouse, but then I would just still find a way to get in and just end up winning the match anyway. But I never forgot that he stand roundhouse every single time, because when I drained him down to almost no life, I was like, I have a guaranteed win. I have a guaranteed win. I walked backwards a full screen away. He threw a fireball. I jumped. I landed with EX green hand. He did stand heavy kick. I hit him and he died. I actually saved that to the very end for an easy kill. But again, it was still based off of fighting somebody else and using the strategy of don't show all your tricks at once. If you're winning using 60% of your tricks, keep using 60% of your tricks. Do not bust out any of your other tricks if you are winning with 60% of your tricks. If you're winning with 20% of your tricks, don't bust anything new out. This is one of the hardest things about ranked, is that everybody, because you don't think you're going to see them again, you throw everything in the kitchen sink at them. But if you can beat them with as little as possible, that's what you do. Because once they catch on, you have new shit for them. You might be fighting someone who's really good at noticing all the tricks that you've done. And so even if you take the first game by using 10 tricks, now you get into the next game and he kills you 2 games in a row because he knows all 10 of your tricks. And you saved nothing left to kill him. You don't have any more surprises. So if you can kill them with as little as possible, that's what you do. That's what you do. So, let me take a look at the chat over here. Let's see here. Let's see. John the Automaton says, let's see. Don't you think newer games, specifically Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8, make this less of case because your offense alone can snowball people due to system mechanics? Yes. That is definitely a thing that happens, and sometimes you know what they're going to do and you just can't do anything about it. Like round 1 fight, heat engager. Like, I couldn't do anything to that. They nerfed it, so now I can. But I hated that shit. Like, literally, early on in Tekken 8, I couldn't do a goddamn thing to that. It was just like, round 1 fight, hate engager. And I'm like, I can't do anything. I have to block this. And I was like, this is really, really stupid. So yeah, obviously, same thing with Marvel. If you know your zero combos and if you know your mix-ups, if you hit the enemy character once, you could potentially win without ever having to play the 2-player game. That's the nature of Marvel, right? That's why when you talk about heart, body, and mind, Marvel has a very high a very high body quotient. Because if you know your mix-up, if you're Iron Man in MVC2 and you know how to do a fucking infinite, like, you can guard break everybody and kill them. And that's the end of the game, right? Like, you just have to practice their execution and you're going to defeat everybody. So for sure, that is a situation that happens right there. So that's important to note, right? So when a game is aggressively offensive, you can definitely die for that reason. But even in aggressively offensive games like Marvel 3, a lot of people focus on the hit into the big combo, but a lot of people aren't paying attention to the neutral that's being played beforehand. Because you can fill the screen with shit in Marvel games, the neutral is very intricate. Like how to navigate and how to choose, because you're also like, he might call an assist at any time and I don't want to get surprised by this assist. And so like there's a lot of guessing. Is he going to call the assist? Is he not going to call the assist? If he does, how is he going to try to protect them? Is he going to try to protect them? Maybe he thinks I'm not going to try to kill the assist because he's protected it 4 times already. So he's going to try to use this one time to sneak in the ability to get some offense because he doesn't think you're going to try to, try to murder his assist, et cetera, right? So again, it's there in a lot of the games. But yes, in the extreme conditions like Zero in Marvel, you hit one guy, you can kill a whole team without ever having to play, without letting the opponent do anything, without having to read anything. So that is a problem there for sure. John the Automaton replied to that, said, this kind of is part of the reason I have difficulty. Often I'm too busy trying not die to think about how they're playing, but it's more manageable with people who play slower. Yes, and that is a certified fighting game style. That is absolutely a style, and I've talked about it a lot. Punko described his style as Gamble Seth. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to overwhelm you so you just never have a chance to think. Ceroblast is another one. Her Ken has always, like, you watch it and you're like, what is this Ken doing? And the way that she plays Ken is that she never wants to give you a chance to think. You know what the weirdest thing is? Mena RD's Zangief is that style. He doesn't give you a chance. His Zangief is so aggressive and just forward, drive rush, and you're like, what? Zangiefs don't play? Huh? I'm dead? Like that's kind of, yeah, and that's one of the reasons why Vi rushed people down, right? It's a legitimate play strategy to do that, right? That's a legitimate strategy, is to overwhelm your opponent. Now, one of the tough things is that John the Automaton is saying is that, this is difficult. Obviously, oftentimes I'm too busy trying not to die to think about how they're playing. If you remember John the Automaton, I had another video about labbing, which I wanted to put on YouTube and I haven't because, brain cluttered. But I'll get that up there eventually at some point in time. The thing about it is, the reason why you get into a situation where you're too busy trying not to die is because you lack knowledge. You have a gap in your knowledge, right? So the reason why I say that is because you don't know what the opponent's mix-ups are. You have no idea what the opponent's mix-ups are. Ken hits you with strong, fierce, medium punch, heavy punch, run into Tatsu. Now you're in the corner. You didn't lab the situation. You don't know what Ken's options are. So everything feels like a surprise. Everything feels like a surprise. And so you're just like, what am I? Oh, he hit me. Oh my God. Right? But if you lab the situation and you fight Ken and he goes medium punch, heavy punch, run into Tatsu and you're in the corner, you're like, if he whiffs a jab, he's going to try to do run overhead meaty because he can link off of that. But he can also do run stop low short or run stop throw, or he can do run stop shimmy. I know what his 4 options are. I'm going to guess which one he's going to do. Oops, I was wrong. He hit me. But the thing about it is, because you know all of his options, there's no panic. And when you guess wrong, you're just like, good guess. And you keep going. The whole goal is, if you lack the knowledge, the opponent's moves will all seem like random. And you're just like, what is happening? What is happening? I don't know. Wait, how did I get command thrown by Blanca, right? Like, Like, for example, like I was just testing this a couple of days ago. I don't know why I never tested it before, but I should have tested it a long time ago. But after medium up ball, heavy command throw is a perfect meaty. And I get hit by this all the time, right? So again, I'll show you this again. Medium up ball, command throw, grab like this. And if I pause the screen, you'll actually see down here, there's only a 1 frame gap. There's only a 1 frame gap. And he grabs me on the second frame. So in other words, I couldn't have done anything. I couldn't jab. I couldn't, I could jump because it's a throw, but I can't wake up with any buttons. So this is going to grab me. The problem is, I didn't study this. I got hit by this every single time because I didn't know up ball led to this mix-up. Medium up ball, only medium up ball. But if I study this, and I know that now, if I get hit by a Blanca up ball, I don't know which up ball he's doing. I don't care. I'm now waiting for a command grab. I have that knowledge now. But if I didn't have that knowledge, and Blanca does this, you're just like, oh my God, Blanca's so random. What the hell? What the hell? And then he jabs, and then he throws, and then you're just like, what the heck? Like, if you didn't know that after this command grab like this, he's in perfect position to do light punch throw, a light ball in the throw, it's going to seem random, and you're going to panic, and you're not sure what's going on, and you're going to be too busy trying not to die. But if you understand all the mix-up situations, so like, let's say he does this, and I forgot, and then he command grabs me, but then I'm like, oh shoot, but that's right, he's in perfect range for a light Blanca ball. So he light Blanca balls, and I jab him out of it, right? So all 0 frames, but still, at least I can stop him from throwing. But again, if you don't have the knowledge of what the opponent is going to do, everything is going to catch you by surprise. And because you're not memorizing the sequences, it's random. Why did he command grab? You didn't know that it was a perfect meaty. Why did he jab Blanca ball there? You didn't know he's 0 in that situation, so it's really safe to do, right? And these are the problems here. So yeah, you'll be too busy trying not to die because you don't know what happens. The best part about knowing what their mix-ups are and knowing what the sequences are, and this is why you watch replays and use now replay take over, thank God, you can test these situations. What's interesting is when you know what their mix-up is and you get caught by it, it's not panic-inducing. It's like, wait, I forgot he can do that. Or I guessed wrong. And now you don't have to freak out. Instead, you're like, okay, interesting. So this time when he caught me with the up ball, he did the command grab. See, normally you'd be like, oh my God, command grab, where did that come from? But if you're like, I know that after the up ball, he can command grab, he can probably hop, he can do a jab Blanca ball, he might set out a Blanca chan. I suspect he's going to do this, and then he does the hop into throw, and you're like, okay, I really didn't think you were going to go for that. But now, instead of panicking and going, where did that come from? You're like, okay, so this time when he did the up ball, he did the command grab. Now you're building knowledge. Now you're going to be able to play the 2-player game because one, you're not panicking and you're remembering this key moment. After up ball, he did command grab. So the next time he does up ball, you're like, he might just do up command grab again because he's testing me, but you've built that knowledge. And then maybe you expect it and he doesn't do it. And then you're like, interesting. So he's not going to do it every time. And so again, even though you gained nothing out of those interactions, and in fact, you lost health in the first interaction, you're still building knowledge. And so every time you get into these situations, you start trying to find the pattern. You're trying to find the pattern. And that's how it works. That's how you play a 2-player game. Salim K says, hi, Ultra Chen TV and chat. Very interesting topic. I think there's something important that has to be mentioned. It is not enough to know what your opponent is doing in each situation. You, as a player, you have to be able to counter his patterns. That's why it's important to train a lot of specific situations in training mode. Yeah, and again, the important thing about this is the cycle. It's a pattern. Ranked, Get hit by something you have no idea. Go to the lab. Train it. Again, people think training mode is to practice your combos. No, training mode is about discovery. To find out what the exact situation is in that situation. Like, what is actually happening here? So then you go lab out that situation. You lab out what he does. Then you lab out your counters. And then, very importantly, you lab out their counters to your counter. And then you lab out your counter to their counter to your counter. And you try to figure out as much as you can. And then when you get into that situation in the matchup again, you will be prepared for it. Even if you forget and you get caught by something. You're like, oh God, I labbed this situation. That's right. I can do these things. Right? Like, these are things that you have to understand. The hardest part is that a lot of people, when they play fighting games, it's just a vacuum. Should I try this? Should I do this? What is he doing? Why did he do that? Etc., etc., etc. You know, that's why it's important to lab out these situations and stuff. So, let's see here. Risk reward is an important advanced concept to learn for intermediate players. What if this doesn't work? Isn't a question new players often ask themselves. Yeah. So here's a great example. One of the reasons why people lose the Zangief so badly is because they're not willing to get spinning pile driver. Sometimes you have to guess that the Zangief is going to fake the spinning pile driver and he's actually just going to keep poking. Sometimes you have to guess that. And when he's spinning pile drives you, you're like, well, I guessed wrong. Move on, right? But, you know, there's a little bit of a risk and reward there. You know, I could try backdashing because best he can do is sweep me, so it's not that bad and I kind of get away a little bit, etc., etc. But the reason why a lot of people lose the grapplers a lot of time is because every time you get grabbed, it just feels unfair. You don't realize that getting grabbed by the spinning pile driver is all part of the mix-up. If Zangief goes for the grab every single time, you will destroy them. You will murder them. You just hold straight up, they whiff a spinning pile driver, and they die. Every Zangief knows this, so they have to guess. They have to guess. There is no situation where they can spinning pile drive you and you can't escape. Unless it's in a combo, like OD Lariat into level 3 or something like that. But you can always escape. And the Zangief knows that. Again, flawed brain versus flawed brain. They're going to guess wrong in a couple of situations, and you're going to guess wrong in a couple of situations. If you guess wrong and get spinning pile drive, you're just like, oh, good shit. Good shit. Kind of back to neutral. I need to survive his drive rush meaty pressure, and if I do, we're back to neutral. And if my Zangief is slow, he's whiff punishable. If I can do more damage in my neutral to Zangief than he can guessing right on spinning pile drivers to me, that's great. Also, Zangief has no defense. So if I guess right on neutral and I knock him down and he's in the corner, his life sucks. I can beat the crap out of him because he's in the corner now and he has no defense. So again, yes, you'll get grabbed by spinning pile drivers from time to time because you guessed he wasn't going to try it. But the problem is everyone is so triggered by that because it feels really bad. And I get it. It feels really bad. But that's what makes you panic and hold up and become predictable and make you just completely melt down against Zangief, right? That's what makes you melt down against Zangief, basically. You're describing me exactly right now. What the fuck is happening is my most common mental state. Yeah, and one of the examples that I gave for me labbing was Honda versus Kimberly. I was so tired of getting hit by blocking his headbutt, and then what I would try to do, I would try to standing medium kick him, and he would hit me, and I'm like, what the hell? This sucks. Like, I should have a free medium kick. He's -3. Oh, he's -3. So that means, yeah, that button is fast enough to beat my button, whatever. And I was like, so what the hell should I do? and I labbed it, and I labbed it, and I found out crouching medium punch is a pain in the butt for Honda. Right? Like, there is not a single button that Honda can press that beats this. So I labbed what combos I could do off of a counter hit crouching medium punch. You could do stand medium kick into run slide. But before, when this move was murdering me because I kept trying to medium kick it and he would beat me, I was in that what the fuck is happening mode. And now every time I fight Honda and I block this, I know I can hit crouching medium punch, and the only thing it loses to is another OD headbutt. And so now I know that if I throw out a crouching medium punch and he OD headbutts, I'm like, okay, good call. But I can also not press a button, and if he OD headbutts, I get a free punish counter and get to do not a lot of damage because I'm Kimberly. But, you know, the thing is, it's not a crazy situation anymore. It's a lab situation. So nothing is unknown. And so the results is just he guessed better than me. I guess better than him. He doesn't know how to escape this. Oh, if he never OD headbutts, then I'll crouching medium punch till the cows come home. If he never OD headbutts, then I'll be like, all right, you never figured out a solution, then I'm just going to keep doing this, you know? So that's kind of what you have to do. You have to train this. So I'm actually mind blown right now. Blanca's my most hated character exactly for this reason. Everything does feel random. Dude, fucking Blanca, dude. Like, I lose to the Blancas that hop and command throw and light Blanca ball and heavy Blanca ball and then just like coward crouch and a jump in the freaking, like, dude, it's so annoying. But like I said, I didn't really study them all that much, so I would get caught by a lot of this stuff, right? So this is the situation. If you are in a situation and you are asking yourself what the fuck is happening, go find out what the fuck is happening. Go find out. You know, go watch the replay. Get hit by what the fuck is happening, replay takeover and figure it out, or at least replay takeover enough to figure out what their setup is, then go into training mode, manually input the setup by recording the dummy, and then lab it out and figure out what all the situations are. Now, obviously, it takes a lot of knowledge to know what to lab and to think of the counters to the counters to the counters to the counters, etc. And that's really hard because maybe you'll think of something that actually isn't very good and you don't know because you're not an expert at fighting games. But the important thing is the cycle. You may not be learning the matchup properly, but you're learning the cycle. You're learning how to improve. Because what happens is even if you pick the wrong answer, you go to the matchup and you fight it and you're like, haha, this works, and it doesn't work. You're like, what? I labbed that. But you didn't expect the enemy to press light kick instead of medium punch. And you're like, oh my God, that changed everything. So you go back and lab. Again, this is the cycle. This is the cycle of learning fighting games. That's how you get better at fighting games, is always trying to improve your knowledge situation. And then once you understand the knowledge, you can start making more pointed and insightful reads on what the opponent is doing, their patterns, and now you can play the two-player game a lot better. A lot better. New games are really good at keeping the actual bullshit to pretty low levels. There's usually an option. Old games were not like that, yeah. Old games did not have good balance. Oh, man. I struggle to use DJ's uppercut into level 2 or 3, so I don't use it at all. What is that? What is that situation here? Not nearly as often. Let's see. And there's usually a good reason why you're in that unfair situation. Yeah. And again, sometimes when you get hit by stuff and you're like, this mix-up sucks, right? Like if Kimberly actually gets you into this situation here, did I say no block or did I say no block? What the hell? Okay, so if Kimberly actually gets you into this situation over here, and now you got to deal with this mix-up here, right? Because after that air reset, Kimberly can do overhead, she can do low, she can do throw, she can even be a total jerk and do something like this. right? And catch you with a drive impact because you're waiting for everything else. That situation sucks. And you're like, God, how do I lab this situation? This sucks. And like, can I do anything about this? You know what? That situation is supposed to suck. The mistake you actually made was getting hit by this. Why did you get hit by standing strong, standing heavy punch so that she can actually OD run and stick you to the wall? How did that happen? That's the mistake. That's where you actually got to look, right? So that's what Fearside is trying to explain. There's usually a good reasons why you're in that unfair situation. In order for Kimberly to even remotely function as a character, this situation has to be strong for her. Whether she does that option, the fuzzy guard option that I showed you here, whether she does the safe jump option like this into this situation is supposed to be good for Kimberly. So you need to figure out how you got there. Because I'll tell you this right now. Kimberly landing this in the corner, it's really fucking hard. There are not a lot of situations that gives her this free thing. Because it's so hard for her to get close up to anybody. Like if you died because she did this, and then she was able to do this combo, your mistake was you didn't kill the teleport, right? It wasn't the mix-up afterwards, you didn't kill the teleport. And as I showed earlier on the stream, her teleport is ass. You should never, ever let that teleport get away like that. So, basically, so.
It was Tuesday.